What's up, guys? It's McNulty here. Welcome back to the channel. And if you can believe it, we are ready for round two. So we are going to be looking at the legendary heroes in the dark element today, and we're going to be deciding on which are the absolute best of the best in Empires and Puzzles. And I am going to, at the end of this video, go through my top 10 picks for the most dangerous and hardest hitting heroes in the whole of Empires and Puzzles in the dark element. So without any further ado, we're going to start off like we did before with the top row, and we're just going to go down this. Believe it or not, we're looking at a total of 124 heroes in the dark element, and there are some absolute monsters in this list. So it's definitely been a difficult challenge to decide which of these heroes I want to pick. So starting off with the top row, and like I said before, I'm just going to go through the heroes that I believe are S-tier heroes, and heroes that you would want to get your hands on. So game changers, in other words. So from the top row, I would say definitely starting off with Acid Fire in the left-hand corner. Just an insanely good hero, and probably the newest goblin that we've got. Just a really, really good hero. Aconia. She's also probably, I would say, S tier, but she is a little bit niche. Her fiends are pretty devastating, and she can be awesome when used in the right circumstances, but a very rare hero. But I wouldn't say she's useful in every single area, and you do need to know how to work with her. Then Agrafina. She's fallen off the wagon a bit. Looks like she's been drinking too much. But yeah, she's still a good hero, but only really at the second charge, so a little bit slow, unfortunately. But her effect that she does give a really good attack boost on her second charge. And then Alfrike is just the queen of Rush Wars. She's still an insanely good hero, but with the advent of so many heroes that can reflect, unfortunately, she's not quite as good as she used to be. And then we have Amethyst, just a really good fiend summoner with that speed that she summons the fiends, gets them out there, and she does quite a lot of damage as well. I would say that she is an S tier hero as well. So from this top row, I'm going to go Amethyst and Acid Fire as my top picks. Second row, we're looking at Aramis. He's just a G. I mean, the fact that he still gets that undispellable ailment protection, he hits and he heals and he gives cover. He's just a really tricky tank to deal with. And, you know, I often re-roll if I do see him as a tank when I'm coming up against him in a raid. If I'm not feeling like going against somebody I'm going to struggle against, I'll re-roll against Aramis. So he's a great hero from the second row. We've got Bastet, still a pretty good hero, although, like I say, I think stats-wise maybe a little bit dated. We'll have to see what happens with the costume for Bastet. That will be interesting, but still a really good hero and gives dodge to the entire team and running at fast speed. So there's a lot going for Bastet. I would say probably an A+ hero, not quite S tier. And then Becky. Becky's a great hero, a lot of versatility. She's kind of got that Guardian Hippo effect going on, which is pretty cool, but it is really effective second charge, I think, for Becky. Yeah, she's a good hero, but also a little bit finicky, a little bit tricky to use. Belladonna. She's a hero that I haven't seen used a lot. I know a lot of people do get a lot of good use out of her, and she does have a very valuable skill with the protection against buff dispels, which we've seen from Yukinen, who's been really effective in the tank position. And she's a really good hero, actually. I would say Belladonna, I would say she is an S tier hero. But again, she's kind of finicky, and a lot of these dark heroes do have some kind of dark magic skills that you really need to pair up with other heroes, and that's what makes a lot of them so fun to use. But I definitely like Belladonna a lot. She's a great hero, and she gives the Bard bonus, so obviously the increase in mana for non-family heroes is good. Beera, still probably one of the best minion control heroes in the game, so I'd say A+, not quite as good as some of the others that we've looked at so far, and that'll be it for row 2. Now, in row 3, we have Sharon. Sharon is a great hero. Honestly, just a huge health boost straight away. You can't really go wrong with Sharon as a healer in your team. And then the revive percentage, if you get to tier 3 of his special, is just humongous. I mean, there's almost a guarantee that you're going to be bringing the whole team back. So an excellent support hero. Definitely S tier for me. Dark Feather, I would say, would be my next pick from this row. Again, the goblins are just taking this whole thing by storm, I think, at the moment. Dark Feather is just he's just a beast, man. Like his heal, the fact that he gives that chance to every single hero on the team and they hit with that extra damage, and then he gives the growth effect as well, makes him a really good Titan hero. So he does have a lot of usability, not just in wars and raids, but also against Titans as well. And I've seen some pretty hefty Titan scores where people have been using Dark Feather on their Titan teams. You've got Deadboot next to him, also a really good hero, just very fast speed, lifts the dispellable buffs and grants them to your opposing team. So another great hero from the goblins. And then you've got Dio-Chan, who's recently been featured in the Soul Exchange for 20 souls, and I think she's worth every single one of those. She's just an insane healer. Just those minions are really horrible. If you do bring buffs up against her, you better watch out, because they're going to be stealing some buffs. And I know they're a little bit paper thin, those minions, but they do their job and they do it well. So yeah, from the second row, I'd say that's about it, those ones. That's the third row, sorry guys. It's difficult to keep track. Now, row 4. Jeez, I can't count tonight. So in row 4, we've got Demetia. The costume for Demetia, second costume for Demetia, is awesome. I think when they bring the Toon costume out, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I do have a soft spot for Demetia. She was one of my first legendary heroes, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I do think she's got a good effect. Not a great talent class, unfortunately. And then Eros, one of the recently featured Valentine's heroes. Again, I would say probably an A+ hero, but very specific areas, like against Titans, she shines. Really good hero for that, but not too much else. Farah's an all-rounder. She just has massive amounts of damage, huge elemental defense down, hits for as many hits as you need, and more. And her damage is insane. She can bust through taunt like none other in the Dark Heroes as well. So she's got a lot of usability, a lot of versatility as well. And Goretooth, I do like his effect. But I think he's great. Don't get me wrong, running at very fast speed, and the fact that he stops mana is also really good, and he's quite a unique hero. But I would say he doesn't really stand too well on his own. He needs some other heroes around him to be able to make him really effective. Goshek, on the other hand, is a team destroyer. Still a really good hero and a good counter. And he's able to wipe a whole team in one shot pretty much. So I would say definitely an S tier hero as well, Goshek. Grifex, I've seen him used to good effect. Glitterwez, if anybody's watched his videos on his war attacks from 7 Days Departed, he uses Grifex, especially in the Rush War, and he can be very effective. So in the right situations, definitely S tier, but not in all situations. Then we've got Grimble. I'm not going to say he's S tier. He's just a great hero, just a really fun hero to play around with, and his effect is pretty unique. And then who else do we have from this next row? Costume Hell. I think I was going to say Hawthorne, but then I think Hawthorne has become a little bit easier to deal with. I think when he came out, I thought he was going to be like a premier dark tank with the reflect and everything else that he does. But I just found that he maybe is a little bit lacking now. I'm not going to say he's dropped below an A grade hero. He's still a great hero. But yeah, not quite as good as he was. Costume Hell, she does a buttload of damage. I've been up against her a fair few times, and with that mana stop and that huge amount of damage, she's very tricky to deal with in the costume version. And then on the end of the row, we can't forget about my monkey man, Hurricane. He is just incredible in terms of the amount of sheer damage and destruction that guy deals out. He is a beast. So yeah, definitely another S tier hero there in Hurricane. Costume Jabberwock, nah, sorry mate, you don't make the cut. You're still a good hero, but you don't make the cut. Jet as well, not found him to be as usable, but the damage is quite big actually, funnily enough, and then that poison on top of it makes him a pretty good hero. And you've got, who else from this row? Kemeny is good. I'm going to skip over him. Khepri's good as well, but I'm not going to say S tier. Sorry guys, I'm leaving so many great heroes out, but we are looking for the absolute best. I just want to stress that. Next row, I'm going to say Lepiota is such a great hero. Just one of the more unique heroes. She can create a ghosting lane. She's now got the costume, which gives her that extra boost. So I would say, yeah, I'd rate her from this row. Definitely one of the S tier heroes in this group. And right next to her, Louis, that priority dispel and then defense down. I know Louis probably more popular in the rush format than in other formats, but I think as an attacking hero in other war formats, when you need that priority dispel, there is nobody better. Because he gives that defense down. And if you can follow him up with a hit, or like say pair him up with Kemeny, who's just above him, you've got a team destroying twosome. I'm a poet. Anyways, moving on. The next row, Ludwig, is a staple. If you don't have him, if you grab him, he will definitely enhance a lot of different areas of your gameplay. He's so usable in the map stages, the towers, for autoplay, things like that. He can't be beat. And he makes a pretty good tank as well, and he gives the auto taunt. So he's just a beast in all areas and a fantastic hero. And if you didn't grab him in the Soul Exchange when he was featured for 15 souls, you could be kicking yourself. I know some people who didn't, and they are, trust me. Next to him, we've got Luna. Luna is the most annoying hero in the game, hands down. She's just a fast speed tank with the most annoying mana cut. She doesn't deal a huge amount of damage, but it all racks up, and before you know it, you've just lost the battle. And it's taken time for it to happen as well. It's like you can see it happening right in front of your eyes, and that is the worst thing about Luna, and it's what makes her such a great hero. So definitely an S tier hero there. Anybody else from this next row? Madame Geary, she is running at slow speed, but she does have an interesting effect. Medea, I'd say she's a fantastic hero, also a very new hero. And does she make the cut? She's got to make the cut. She's got to make it. I mean, she is definitely an S tier, but I think that so far we have seen heroes with a bit more unique skill than maybe she does. So don't hate me, Medea. I'm looking into your eyes and you're hating me right now. Then next row, we've got Mortimer. I love Mortimer. I think his effect is excellent. The silence against those heroes and a good amount of damage. A really good amount of damage with the attack up ether talent as well makes him an S tier hero from these dark ones. And then if we move along, Nyx is a fantastic hero. Right next to her, you've got Oberkhan, who's just a really great hero, especially with the release of this costume, the second costume for Oberkhan, that counter attack with the mana gain at fast speed. It just makes him just an insanely good hero, really good tank. And if you don't have a dispel, he can fire off multiple times once after each other, and before you know it, you're killing yourself trying to get rid of him. So he is a great hero. Absolutely S tier costume Oberkhan, and now the toon version as well makes him that much more difficult to deal with. Omidus, a slow speed hero, but a fantastic hero. Really, really good, obviously, in the rush format. But one of the owls that I think landed on the right side of the owls, Omidus and the green owl, I forget the name. I'm sure I'll get to it at some point. But those two owls for me are probably the ones that have landed on their feet the best. Forgive the pun again, owls landing. And then Phantom of the Opera. I'm going to say A tier for Phantom of the Opera, actually. I mean, his damage is humongous, but I find that his dance effect is one of the weaker dance effects among the opera heroes. I'm not going to say he's a bad hero. He's a fantastic hero, but just not quite as strong as I thought he was going to be. And then you've got Phorcys. The name says it all. He's a force to be reckoned with. Absolute S tier hero in Phorcys. And then right next to him, you've got Pythonus, not quite in the same category, actually, but Phorcys is just great, throwing up that taunt. He gets the auto-taunt ether power. He's a fantastic support hero, and also a very good defensive option and an attacking hero as well, so I really like Phorcys. And then I think that's just about it for this row. You've got Costume 2 Quintus, who's a master of the mindless attack, and really effective in rush wars. Roquefort, who's a really unique hero as well. I would say S tier, definitely for Roquefort in this row. He hits hard. He's got the right class, and he's got a unique effect as well. So I do like that guy. And that's probably it for that row. And we're going pretty quick, this one, actually. Next one down is going to be Sartana. I have been pointed out this, I mean, with her costume, the Toon costume being of the wizard class, that she gets that dispel with the tiles. And she also gets that Jinx chance as well, which increases her damage, and she already has a pretty hefty hit. But remember, she is a single target sniper, so I think that does work against her. I'd say A+ for Sartana. Not quite where we want you to be. I mean, you've got some stiff competition, I'm just saying. Seshat, I'm going to say Seshat's an S tier hero. Just that dispel, the fact that she's so difficult to deal with and she's so usable on attack in multiple different areas. She's still an excellent, excellent hero, even though she's like a million years old. Not really, 2019, but that's a million years in this game. And then Shacklebolt from this row as well. I really do like him. I can't say the same for Tenebrae at the end of the row, but I think Shacklebolt is a unique hero and just really tricky to deal with. I've not seen him a lot, but when I have gone up against him, he's shown me, he's shown me where the door is. Put it that way. He's just a great hero. Sneferu is just a good hero. I'm going to say he's on par. I know he does that additional effect, but on par with somebody like Khufu, in my opinion. Although I know Khufu does probably have a bit more areas of usability, and I do have Khufu, and I don't have Sneferu. But my experience of going up against him is that he's just a little bit too slow, and his hit is hard, but there are workarounds and ways to deal with him. So yeah, I would say a great hero, a good hero, not a great hero. Now, where are we? We're into the second to last row here. So we've got, who do we have in here that I think is insanely good? I mean, you know what? Tweedles is pretty good. Does have some usability, even though he's running at slow speed, and really good Titan Killer. I mean, not Titan Killer, but Taunt Buster as well. Ultrox kind of fell down a little bit, unfortunately. I thought he was going to be better than he is. And then we've got, I'm not going to say Umbria is really good, but not quite as good as I thought she would be either. And then we've got Cena, who still has her niche. I think the fact that she gives that reflect up against Holy can definitely play into your hands. And if you use her against the right team, she is just like a cheat code against a Holy heavy team. So I do like her. And I think that's probably going to be about it for me. I mean, Exnol was probably the best tank in the game at one point, but that day has come and gone, and he's been nerfed into oblivion. So unfortunately, I think that Exnol's not coming back, even though he's got that costume, and even though I do still love you, Exnol, you're just not gonna compete with some of these other guys in here. So we have looked through a total of 124 heroes, if you can believe it. And I have now the honor of sharing with you my top 10 legendary dark heroes in Empires and Puzzles for 2024. So let's see who's in number 10 spot. Number 10, we've got Deadboot. Deadboot is obviously, like I said, he's a fantastic hero. He is running at very fast speed, so he's got that going for him. He has that little mini Mad Hatter effect where he dispels the all dispellable status effect buffs from the target and distributes them on your team, so you can share in the joy of the buffs that the other team had. And what more could you want? How much more fun could you want than being able to do that, honestly? He deals a truckload of damage, and he deals additional damage per transferred status effect buff, up to 625 damage in total. And he gives the wither effect at very fast speed, where the target gets minus 160 defense. So they're just going to be becoming squishier and squishier and squishier every time you hit. So Deadboot is at number 10. And I know a lot of you will probably say he should be higher, but that's where he is on my list. So he's number 10. Now moving on to number 9, we have Forces. Forces, as I said before, is a master of taunt. I think I'm going to say probably a close one between him and Oniwakamaru, but I would say Forces is probably my favorite taunt hero in the game. I just love the fact that he gives that taunt at fast speed, and he gives the minion, which adds the mana to the owner at the end of each turn. You can't forget about that little sucker, because it just adds mana, and you cannot hit the heroes on either side of him. So the fact that that's happening for 3 turns is giving 5% mana. That 5% adds up and keeps adding up, and before you know it, the heroes on either side of him are ready to fire. So it makes him a really good specialist in defense. At the second charge, the minion gets the same amount of attack and the mana, and the taunt I think is the same now. I think they changed that around, but then the minion gets the increased attack. I think that was a little bit different, but he still, to me, is an absolutely insanely good hero, and I would definitely level him in a heartbeat if I was lucky enough to pull him. But unfortunately, I'm not lucky enough to have a copy of him, but I certainly would if I did. Now let's move on to number 8, which is Obakan. So because of the Toon version release, and there were a couple of heroes in contention for this spot, but because of the Toon hero released and his boost in stats, and his versatility, the fact that he's running at fast speed, and that mana boost counter attack thing that he has going on in his second costume is just incredible. And I think he definitely deserves this spot. I would probably say I'd more use him in the second costume than I will the Toon costume, but the Toon costume is pretty good as well, and it makes sure that you've got that passive where the buffs and elements and things like that, you can't just give them to him, you can't affect him, and he's just that much more survivable in the Toon version. So yeah, he's my number 8 pick, Obakan. At number 7, the Hurricane, the Monkey Man, the Planet of the Apes dude. He's just such a great hero. So I mean, his damage is second to none. Up front, 410% damage to the target and nearby. You can't want much more than that. And then a lot of people forget about that part where he resets the ailment duration for the target and nearby. So he pairs up very well with ailment dealers. And then the target and nearby get that huge amount of burn damage, 904 burn over 4 turns, and he absorbs burn damage as healing. So I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Any hero that deals damage and heals themselves at the same time, or heals the team at the same time, is a really good hero, and you should consider leveling them. And Hurricane is no exception, but he is even more of an exception to the rule because he just smashes for a huge amount of damage up front. Plus, he does a humongous amount of burn damage as well. Plus, he heals himself. So he is a great all-rounder and a excellent hero. So yeah, Hurricane is at number 7. Now moving on to number 6. It's Shackle Bolt, probably one of the coolest looking heroes in the game. And his special skill is where he shines. He is just a great all-rounder as well, I was going to say. He deals a boatload of damage to the target and nearby, but he does steal the mana from the target and nearby as well and distributes it to himself and nearby. So it makes him really usable as a tank or as a flank or on a defensive setup, but it also means that he's really fun to use on an offensive team as well, because this last part of his special where he copies all the dispellable buffs from the target and nearby enemies and randomly distributes them on allies. He's not stealing the buffs, he's copying the buffs, but he is replicating them on his team, which is kind of as close as you can get without it being an actual buff steal. So I do love that about this hero. I just think he's really unique and fun to play with. And plus he gets the construct core, which gives extra damage, and he already deals a lot of damage, and you can see his stats. His team power is up to 986, so his stats are probably one of the highest of any of the heroes that you're going to be getting in the game at this point. So Shackle Bolt is my number 6 pick. Now moving on to number 5. It's the second, I was going to say the first goblin, but I'm not so lucky. It's the second goblin that we've got in here, and it's Mr. Darkfeather. Just Darkfeather, like I said when I was going over him a second ago, is really versatile. And if there was, on the release of the goblins, if there was a hero that you wouldn't have thought would be quite as effective as he actually is, it would probably be this guy. I mean, what was he even doing holding some eagle above his head with a pair of binoculars? He didn't really look that scary. He looked more comical than anything else. But now, you know, if you go up against him and you're facing him in wars in the right part of the right team, he goes off at the right time. And then all of the allies are suddenly dealing this extra amount of damage against you. They're getting increased attack. They're getting increased defense. So everybody's becoming more difficult to kill every turn. And before you know it, you're just wondering why the heck you're hitting them with like 1,000, you know, a special that should be doing 1,000 damage and it's only doing like 400, and you're thinking, shit, I'm not going to make it. Anyways, you get my point. He is an insanely good hero. Just makes all of your other heroes better. And I think that is the draw card for a lot of the goblins because of the growth and wither, especially heroes like him who give the effect to the whole team. Usually the wither effect is stronger as part of an attacking team, or it's more what you want. But with Darkfeather, it's the other way around. The growth effect really works well with him. The passives are insane. The stats are fantastic. So yeah, he makes my number 5 spot. So we're moving into the top 4 now. So we're going to go with number 4, and it is Pharah. So Pharah is my Dark Brittany, bitch. She's a great hero. Honestly, she deals a massive amount of damage at fast speed. That's where she shines. I mean, look, 500% damage to the target is already a lot for a fast speed snipe, but the additional 200% damage to as many random enemies as there are dark tiles on the board just wrecks everything. And it's a maximum of 12 hits, so it's a hit per tile on the board, up to 12 consecutive hits. And then she gives that defense down against dark, further decrease every time they hit during 4 turns, just makes her a fantastic hero. So Pharah is at number 4. Now, number 3 is Acid Fire. Another goblin. So I've got three goblins in my top 10. So yeah, I should tell you something about the goblins portal. I know a lot of people have been summoning in there, but there are some great heroes in there, so I don't blame them. Um, Acid Fire is a offensive monster, and I would say she's going to be stupidly difficult to deal with on defense as well. We haven't seen her on many teams, so she is one of the newer goblins, but I'm sure that as she gets leveled, I know there are a couple of folks in my alliance that are leveling her at the moment as well. I think it's a her. I keep calling her a her, but she just looks, could be either way. But yeah, 355% damage to the target and nearby with a attack stat of over 1,000 with no emblems whatsoever is humongous. And then like I was saying about the wither effect, the target and nearby enemies getting a negative amount of 225 attack and 225 defense every time she fires off is just going to be crippling. And then the reflect status effect buffs to a random character on the opposing team. It's like a mini Milady de Winter effect, so to the target and nearby. But remember, she's running at fast speed and Milady's running at slow, and we all know how effective she is. So it's just a supreme effect, just a absolute S-class hero, and one that is going to be very, very usable, and very, very devastating for a long time to come. So Acid Fire is at number 3. Now it's going to get to the pointy end. So we've got 2 heroes left. I wonder if you can guess who's going to be in second and who's going to be in first. So I can't do it. I can't make you guys wait anymore. So let's go. Number 2, Luna. The tiny little owl from the Mighty Pets is the number 2 dark hero of all time, if you can believe it. And I know if you'd have faced her and if you've gone up against her in wars or if you've gone up against her in raids, I hope that you will agree she is just absolutely the most annoying little owl. I hate owls now because of Luna, and thank you, Luna, that you've done that to me. But just a great defensive hero. There isn't anything like her, honestly. So she recovers health for the caster and nearby. Big whoop. I mean, at 20% health recovery, and she's the number 2 hero. Like, why? But at the end of each turn, believe it or not, this little moonbeam that comes out and targets a random enemy for the following 3 turns, dealing a small amount of damage, but reducing the mana by 5% every turn. She is everything that Waterpipe is, but better. And, you know, Waterpipe's minions, they go on the whole team and then they hit everybody and they reduce the mana by 5% for everybody. But somehow when you face Luna, because of that speed increase, because she's at fast speed, and because those attacks come, and they can't, it's not like you can just take them out like a minion. You have to actually remove that effect from the heroes and the opposing team for it to go away. It just makes her so tricky to deal with, and there are not a lot of ways to be able to counter her if she starts going off. And like I said before, she just starts chopping away at your team, and before you know it, everybody's just had it. So yeah, that makes Luna my number 2. So of course, number 1 spot goes to my man, Aramis. Aramis is the OG hero. He has stood the test of time since he's been released, and to me, he is still probably the most versatile. In fact, I'm going to say the most versatile dark hero that we have out there. He deals a lot of damage. He heals, but he not only heals, he boosts the health of all allies by a big percentage of that damage that he's dealing. 30% is one of the higher percentages of boost. And then all allies get that immunity to new status ailments, which cannot be cleansed for 3 turns. So if you're unlucky enough for him to fire off, he's protecting, he's boosting health, and he's dealing a huge amount of damage. Plus he gets the cover effect as a passive, which is one of the best passives in the game still. And even though he's running a slightly lower team power than some of the other heroes on this list, to me, he's still the number one hero that I would want to have in these in the Dark Legendaries. And I would, again, like I said before, I'd level up multiple copies of Aramis, and I wouldn't think twice about spending the ethers on the limit breaks or anything else. He's just such a great hero, and I'm sure that anybody who owns him will testify to that. He is just a fantastic hero, and he's my number one pick. Now, before we go ahead and say goodbye and bid farewell, there is another hero that has just been released. Now, this list is only valid up until the 2nd of February 2022. But as of today, we had another Dark Hero who was released, and if it was up to me, she would definitely have made this list as well. So I can't say farewell without mentioning the New Blood, which is this hero, Zhi Jing, who I can't say her name. She is a freaking monster, and I'm still thinking about counters to her. The only good counter that I've come up with against her is the gargoyles, because of their innate resistance against poison. But if you don't have any resistance against poison, this hero to me seems like she's just a team wiper. She's going to kill and keep killing, and you're going to be dead, and you're going to wonder why the hell you decided to go up in a raid against her. So she would definitely make the list of heroes. So I'm just putting her in there as a New Blood hero, which is definitely a contender. Some honorable mentions, I would say Sharon, who unfortunately didn't make the list, was one that I was really considering, but otherwise I'm pretty happy with my list. So I'm going to stand by my top 10 heroes. So again, just to count them down: number 10, Deadboot; 9 is Forces; 8, Oberkan; 7 is Hurricane; number 6, Shacklebolt; 5 is Darkfeather; number 4, Farah; number 3 is Acid Fire; number 2 is the Annoying Luna; and in number 1 it is the Musketeer G of all time, Mr. Aramis. So that is it for this video. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Please do let me know your comments. Let me know what you think of these heroes. Obviously, I want to hear who you think I might have missed out, and who you think should be on this list, or if you think I've got it absolutely bang on right. And we are going to be doing the other heroes, so please do subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so you don't miss any future videos, if you want to make sure that you know who the top heroes are in the other classes, in the other elements as well. Yeah, drop us a like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time. Bye for now.